Thanks for everyone for joining us on a wonderful virtual lunch. Now, there's a couple of things I want to share up front, which is awesome to see. We've got a lot of people joining us today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Paul Jantz. But one of the things I want to share up front is, as you can tell, I'm at home. We come out of lockdown today at midnight. I have been homeschooling my 3 boys, and I cannot guarantee they're not going to walk out. So right up front, it's my little disclaimer. So thank God for Netflix. They're tucked away, but when you've got 11, 9 and 5, anything could happen. So be prepared for that. Hopefully they're good enough. They're going to get little rewards at the end of it if all of this works out quite well. Thank you for, if you haven't muted your lines, if you could do that as well as you're joining us. So that was the first thing I wanted to share. The second thing I wanted to share is this is a little bit different, the way we run our virtual lunches. Number one, if you don't have, you're quite welcome to get. Certainly for those people in lockdown, I know it comes as something nice for us, but for everybody else, if you want to grab a glass of bubbles or wine, water, cup of tea, I've got a bit of both, I've got a tea as well. So I think drinking before 12 o'clock, it's past 12 o'clock now, it's okay, is okay. The other thing we're going to do is, just before I introduce our 2 guests, I want to share as well at the end of this, we're going to open this up. So you've got questions, you want to make statements. This is about collaborative or a collaborative approach. So the collaboration is really important. I think certainly for Brooke and Beck as well, I think that's going to be just as important. So anyone wants to ask anything, please do so. One more before we get started, and that's a big thank you to all the women and the men that helped put the promo together. I'm sure all of you have seen that. When I first visualized how this was going to work, it was interesting. And I thought, can we all bring this together and can we do a join us type of campaign? And it worked, which was fantastic. So to all of you, and all of you know who you are, who were a part of that promo, thank you for being a part of this promo as we highlight, we recognise, and we talk about women in accounting, which is probably the most important thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our 2 guest speakers to unmute themselves, because that's important. And I'm going to welcome both Brooke Holmes and Rebecca Mihalic to our virtual lunch, talking about women in accounting. Hi, Beck. Hi, Brooke.
Hello, Paul. Thanks for having us today.
Thanks, Paul.
Now, congratulations, Brooke. If people don't know, Brooke has just returned from getting married.
Yes, I'm no longer Brooke Holmes. I've upgraded to Mrs. Kaira. So it's my first week back at work after 3 weeks vacation. And yeah, it's kind of great to be back, but also I could get used to the honeymoon life, if I'm honest.
Yeah, honeymoon life is pretty good, isn't it? I must admit, when you're sitting by the pool or you're just drinking and eating every day. So it is pretty good.
But I also love routine. So it's nice to be back doing what I love.
Yeah, good. All right, well, let's get in today because we've got 45 minutes. We've got about 40 minutes to get through some of the key things we want to talk about. And then at the same time, we want to really open this up to everyone that if they've got comments or statements or questions to ask as well. So, Brooke, I'm going to kick off with you. And I suppose we were using this as a bit of a launch pad. I know it might have been maybe 90 days ago, maybe even a bit longer. We're sitting here now, it's the 10th of June, and I remember you guys at Practice Ignition, through you being so passionate about this topic, and with Guy Pearson as well, you launched your top 50 women in accounting. That was a global initiative from memory, and I can remember talking to Beck about it, and we did a quick podcast about it. Yeah, and we really did start to nut this out a little bit, and I think we planned it. Why don't we do a virtual lunch about this and talk about it in greater space, and not just on a global space, bring it back down to Australia and have a bit of a chat about it. So, look, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about that. I suppose you're at the forefront of that with the top 50. Tell me a little bit how it all started.
Sure thing. So for those of you that don't know, our CEO and founder, Guy Pearson, is really passionate and has always been quite vocal about the role that women have played in his career, especially his mum. So in 2018, it was when we first launched the top 50 women in accounting as a way to shine a light and celebrate women in the accounting industry. Over the years, the initiative has evolved from simply shining a light to celebrating the stories and really creating space for conversation around women in accounting. And that's my passion and heartbeat, is making sure we have a platform and we use our platforms to really create space for these conversations, and shine a light and celebrate the stories of incredible women around the globe doing awesome things. So fun fact, first year of the awards, when they first launched in 2018, I was working at an accounting firm in Melbourne at the time, and was actually named in the top 50, which was really weird for someone that was a practice manager and a marketing manager. And I remember when I eventually got to practice ignition and worked alongside them, I was like, this is something I want to sink my teeth into. Like, I remember looking at the other women in that list going, wow, like, there are some really great women doing really incredible things, and I want to be part of that conversation and help lead that conversation. And here we are. Now look, it's really, really fun to be a part of.
Exactly. And I think the great thing about that is, people might have not known your background. We were talking about Melbourne before, because, we were talking about Brooke's up at Toowoomba at the moment. And I don't know if anyone knows where Toowoomba is, but, Queensland is going through the cold snap that Melbourne's going through right now. They're not used to it. So when they're getting...
No, we've got our blankets up here, and I've got my cuppa keeping my hands warm. It's not really fun at all.
See, we're used to this in Melbourne. We got heaters on and fires on and blankets and 10 jackets, and it's just what you do. Now, Beck, you were one of the judges of this when you went through the top 50 with Practice Ignition. So you were one of the judges. Why was it important for you to be a part of this?
It's been quite a journey for me as a female in accounting, and not really a pleasant one the whole entire way through, which I'm not really scared about talking about. And I've shared that via blogs, and I've spoken about it before, but I think it was 2018 as well, was when I was actually one of the top 50 women in accounting. And then in 2019, I joined PI, and Brooke and Guy asked me to be on the judging panel. I've done it twice now. And the way that nomination and then recognition changed not so much my life, but my confidence levels around what I was doing was so important to me, that I wanted the opportunity to help other people feel the same way about it, have some recognition on what it is that they're doing in their worlds that's so amazing. And, we do a better job out there than our male counterparts. Sorry to the guys on the call, but really, when I read the submissions from the women who have put in things for the top 50 women in accounting, like, I thought I juggled a lot. These women are total powerhouses. They have so much going on in their own worlds with their family, their businesses. Most of them have multiple businesses that they're running, involved in community events, give back constantly to not just the community, but the next generation. And I think that we need to shine a light on how important we are to our industry and bring through the next generation of accountants globally.
It's a good point. Just on that, maybe if you don't mind sharing for everybody, quickly your story, because I know it's a good story. I know we've spoken about it a lot since we first met, maybe 4 years ago, where we were on stage, which was quite a lot of fun. So maybe if you don't mind sharing your story a little bit. And, again, I think it's a great thing. You just spoke about the male counterparts, but yeah, tell us a little bit about your story.
I grew up in an accounting world where there were not a lot of other professional females around me very often. Everywhere that I worked was very male heavy, and I was consistently unsure of myself and my voice and my place, and particularly because I kept being put back in what they decided my place was for me. And when you go through those sorts of events over and over and over again, it can be shattering to your confidence. And I was not that person. I was not that person when I was growing up in high school. I was not that person, at university. I was always one of the loudest people in the room, who was quite committed to the things that I did and quite confident of my position and my thoughts. And that over a period of, 10, 12 years, completely started to fall away from me, where I was second guessing myself and really quite miserable by the end of it all, and just didn't know what I was doing. I'd actually then left the accounting industry for a brief period of time for a variety of reasons. Part of it was to initially spend a little bit more time at home with my family, but I just didn't know if this is what I wanted to do anymore. It took me about 6 months before realizing, yes, I'm an accounting nerd and I need to come back to it. Plus, this really cool thing happened. A bunch of my clients kind of contacted me like, come back, help us, please. So kicked off my own business. And at the same time I did that, within about a month of that happening, my husband had a really bad work accident and hasn't been able to go back to work since, effectively. So this small little business I was going to run at home ended up having to be this much bigger enterprise that was going to support my whole entire family and create a really good career path for myself, and be something sustainable for us all over a period of time, which I've managed to do through a lot of hard work and a lot of support around everywhere. But even as I was doing that, and I had a male partner in the beginning of this journey, James Solomons, was always an amazing support of mine. He put me up for everything he possibly could. And, you know, I always tell him he's gender blind. He never looked at me and saw a female partner. He just looked at me and saw someone else who was great in accounting. So that was this great person to be able to work with, because he really encouraged me, but he saw me spiral all the time. I was like, no, I can't do this. Can't do it. I can't go on stage. They're going to look at me. And I would have these panic moments constantly. And then between him and then, funnily enough, Guy Pearson, who I just knew through actually James and Practice Ignition in the community, both kept dragging me on stage to talk and tell my story and share what I did. And these things in the award really started to bring out more of my personality and confidence again, and made me feel good about what I'm doing. And then my daughter wrote this beautiful essay on me last year. It makes me cry every time I talk about it, where in real summary, she talked about my journey and what I had done and her dad's accident and how it impacted the family, and then sort of ended it with me being her hero, which made me more determined than ever to make sure that women don't have to go through what I went through. And I've given you guys a nice version of stuff too. So they don't have to have this journey of self-doubt and can just know that they're on equal footing from day one. I would love my daughter to have that life experience, and it upsets me that we haven't done enough, and she will have part of my story. And I'd love her to just be able to go in and know that we're all good straight away. But sometimes these things don't happen. But that's why we're here today, to try and work towards that, open that conversation, and make sure that there is equality as much as possible moving forward.
Can I just add to that, Beck, if you don't mind, Paul? Like, this is so important to hear. The conversations that we're having today and the conversations we're having now aren't just for us in this room. This is for the next generation to come and generations after that. So we need to make sure that we're doing what we can now to create space for those conversations ongoing. And I remember when I first started my journey in the accounting firm down at Illuminate in Melbourne, I jumped in and I was going to the Zero Cons, and I'd see the Ali Garretts and the Nat Lennons and the Tanya Titmans and the Rebecca Mihalics, you know, on stage. And it was really encouraging. And I think we don't recognize the impact that we have by engaging in conversations, stepping into uncomfortable situations, you know, doing presentations, jumping on a webinar, using our voice. What we do now matters. And yeah, I just thank you again, Paul, for creating space for these conversations.
My pleasure. And Beck, yeah, look, again, this is you can just tell the authenticity on it as well. So it's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that as well. Beck, so what were some of the lessons that you learned from that? Obviously, going through that period would have been a tough period to get to where you are today. And I think, you know, we're going to talk about the future moving forward soon. What were some of the key lessons that taught you that now you can teach your daughter?
So I think one of the key things that took a while for me to realize was that this thing had even occurred to me. I had become shattered and didn't even realize. And it took these moments of me sort of being on the other side to look back and realize just how devastating it was, and panic attacks and these things. I didn't realize what was happening to me, and I didn't realize what the causes were at the time. So again, this is around awareness, and not just awareness of community, but self-awareness as well. And I take that better time for myself now, and I have more positive affirmations instead of beating myself down. And I try to do that as much as possible. And that's really important. And they're the conversations I have with my daughter and her friends as well regularly around just remembering who you are, and that own your own truth and your own story. And you don't need to fit into somebody else's model of you, because you're perfectly fine and wonderful just the way you are.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. So how long have you been in the industry for?
20 years, it turns out. So that really snuck up on me this year.
Well, there you go. So, you know, the last 20 years, again, all sorts of different challenges that we've had, and certainly women in accounting have had. Do you see the next 20 years being different, and why?
I do see them being different, but I'm also not naive that tomorrow we're going to wake up and everything's going to be amazing, because that's not the way the world works. And this is not a new fight. I mean, we're talking in a very small part of this fight right now. So we're talking about women in accounting, but gender equality and women's rights has been a conversation that has been going on for multiple generations. And there are progress in some areas, but there's not progress in lots of other areas. And it's just, you know, this one step at a time, which is frustrating. It's phenomenally frustrating. I would love that it would all be sorted, but I think there'll be, what I'm really hoping for, and it might just be the optimist in me, is better gender pay parity. So if I'm doing a job, I want to get paid the same as my male counterparts, and I want to know that I deserve it. So that's some of this is around that self-confidence again. It's like, know your worth, know that you're worth the same, if not more. So this equality there, a better care for women through, you know, our pregnancy support, between, you know, maternity allowances, better support raising families, because we shouldn't have to choose. We should be able to do it all. And these aren't women's issues solely. These are family issues. So this is about supporting a whole entire family and being able to get through life. And then, you know, being safe at work. It's, you know, that's, I know it's not really what we're here to talk about specifically, but women should be able to be safe wherever they are, and everyone should be able to. You should be able to go to a workplace and know that you're not going to be harassed and you're not going to feel uncomfortable, and there's not going to be any problem with you working in that. And it needs to be a safe space, and it's up to us to create these safe spaces for people to work in, so that the places that aren't safe are no longer desirable or allowable in our industry.
Yeah, and I think that's you know, well, probably over the last 12, 18 months, that's been highlighted in a number of different cases, which has been fantastic and brought to the forefront. So we're all aware of it. What do you think needs to change? Is there certain sort of key things that you believe, again, bring it back to women in accounting, are there key things that you still believe still need to change? And you're right, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but we've seen a lot of involvement over the time. What the next layers you feel that need to go through?
I think the attitudes towards it potentially need to change. There's a lot of powerful, strong people who talk about this in a very positive way. And a lot of the people on this call here are a testament to that. I've heard many people here today talk about these things and have had great conversations with lots of the women here. But some of the things that need to change is we need to include and encourage men to be in this conversation, which is what I'm so thankful, Paul, that you're actually one of our champions, and all the male champions that are out there. Not that we need them. We don't need male champions. But again, this is not just a women's issue. This is a society issue. So that requires everybody in society to jump on board and be part of the solution. So it's bringing men into the conversation. It's making it commonplace and pointing it out when something happens. It's not okay. It's the time for turning a blind eye is well behind us, and you don't do anything other than cause more disservice if you just walk past the situation and don't call it out. If something happens, you know that it's wrong, then it's our obligation to step in there and point out that it's wrong and try to fix it if we can.
Well said. Brooke, is there anything you'd like to add to that, Brooke?
Yeah, I just think as far as legislation from both a federal level and from a company level as well, I know our American and our Canadian counterparts don't have the same kind of things that we have as far as where women are at as they become mothers. So it's just making sure that we continue to have the conversations, not just around how it affects us here in Australia, but also keeping in mind our global counterparts as well. From a cultural level, the culture of a company is imperative to influencing whether a woman will be successful or not. So it's just making sure that we're creating cultures that are inclusive and creating space for differing genders, backgrounds, ethnicities. This is not just about women, it's also about making sure our women of colour are being heard. And you know, this conversation extends so far. So it's just making sure we're creating those spaces for the conversation to continue where we're being affected, but also where we're not being affected as well, and having eyes to see and ears to hear and voices where appropriate as well.
Yeah, well said. And I think that's probably one of the great things about, I know you've just got married, but it's sort of one of the great things about being a parent, that we've got the ability. I've got 3 boys. I've got the ability to influence 3 boys of how they may act, behave, and respect certain things moving forward. And I think that's, it needs to start from that younger going through as well, which is just as important, I believe anyway, as a dad.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add to that, like my husband is an African man. And so it's understanding too, like cultural issues don't necessarily affect all of us, but they need to. We need to allow ourselves to be affected by things that aren't necessarily in our everyday, because of the greater good, of the greater cause. We want to see all women everywhere, and all men, all of us, progress in a way that champions everyone. So creating equal opportunities, creating those inclusive and diverse conversations, and making sure that our workplaces are a reflection of that too.
Yeah, well said, well said. Look, I had the opportunity to chat to, I want to bring in, I'm going off script here, so stay with me. I had the great opportunity to chat to Andrew Conway last week, and I released the podcast this week, CEO of the IPA. Now, we've got 3 key governing bodies, the CPA, the CAANZ, and we've got the IPA. How important, there's probably going to be a mixture. We've got 60 people on the line here, so, a mixture of people that's going to be a bit of both. How important do you feel is the governing bodies need to assist in this, to the women in accounting moving forward?
They're vitally important. That's what they're there for. I mean, it's not solely what they're there for, but they're to protect us. And they've got a huge role to play, not just in the way that women in accounting change, but everything to do with the next generation. And they should, to be frank, and I'm kind of hoping there's nobody on the line here directly from any of them, but they actually also need to be pulling their fingers out to do a better job talking about how amazing our industry is for the next generation. Like, bringing more accountants in. I see that as part of their responsibility. So it's all about making this a more attractive industry. And one of the things that will do that is to make sure that there is this equality amongst women, and to promote it and to have that safe space. And they've taken some steps in some areas, some particularly in that mental health space, but I think that there's more that they can be doing.
And that's probably the key thing I was going to ask, Brooke, before I go to you to ask or comment on any of the institutions. I suppose I'm not a member, so I don't get to see that, while I get to be and see or chat to an Andrew Conway as an example, which was, I think sounds like an awesome, authentic individual. What more, or what are they doing now that they need to do more of as we're close to entering a new financial year? He's a great voice. How do we encourage it? What are the key things? What are the top 3 things you think? I did say I was going off script.
Oh, wow. You're like totally chuck me on the spot now. Anyone else? Top 3 things. Look, it's it's education, promotion. Can I just do 2? So
sure.
I know that I think the CAs, I think it's the CAs are running at the moment a Women in Accounting series, which is fantastic. So these things should be happening all the time, and across more of those events, a promotion internally in ranks as well, to put more women in leadership positions by, and I'm not suggesting that people get promoted that don't deserve those roles, but there are a lot of fantastic women out there. So they can do some of the good stuff that we need done in ranks themselves, and to talk about that and promote that a lot better as well would be amazing. And then that, that focus on the next generation.
Brooke, have you got anything to comment on? Because I was just going to make a comment from, I don't know if Nick Sinclair's on the call or not, but when Nick did the promo, he spoke about the importance of having female leaders and what they bring to the mix. I don't know if everyone saw that, and it got a few comments on social media as well. And I think even Ali might have commented on it as well. I know she's on here at the moment, but the importance of what you just said then, because they bring a tone, and I think his comment was, he didn't actually understand or realize the impact of having female leaders or board members, or whether it's a chair or whatever it may be, to that different element that brings. And I think he said, and to the rest of the males, maybe we're not as empathetic. I think he used a word of the empathy side, which was totally different. And you're right, we're very different people. So when you do have that diversity coming through, you may see different results. And I think, Brendan, if you're a Melbourne person, we all love our AFL, and he's a classic example. I know when Richmond Football Club appointed the first chairwoman, Peggy, to the board, and it was really frowned down upon. She wasn't Australian. I think she's American from memory. And the success that the Richmond Football Club have gone through, they're an organisation, just like every other organisation, that is all about success. And they've done that really well with the way they've done that, more importantly. And then it's brought in a different type of culture, which again is very success driven. So I just wanted to state that, because I know, and a shout out to Nick Sinclair for saying that as well.
Just to add to that too, as well as our governments and policies and industry bodies, like I know that there's a lot of business owners here. Like it also starts with us too, around our hiring processes and, having conversations with our teams and allowing our employees to be comfortable with who they are and showing up and allowing them to be authentically themselves. Like these are practical things that we can be doing in our businesses today. Yes, we can be informing industry bodies, and yes, we can be encouraging those conversations, but it also starts with us.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I look, that's an interesting one. So I'm going to segue into this, because I suppose being a dad that's heavily involved in sport, I think I've got 3 boys, but I've got also mates that have got 3 girls. And the great thing that's happened probably over the last 2 or 3 years has been AFLW, and I know it happens in the rugby league as well, with the women's league, and the cricket more importantly, and the encouragement of young girls coming through now that they too can play footy, they too can play rugby, they too can play cricket. What's the encouragement factor we need to have to encourage the next layer of women coming through into our industry? Who'd like to take that one on?
I think it's all about making sure that our industry looks appealing to women. So what are the things that are going to promote them here? Know that there's going to be pay parity. Know that they're going to have a safe working space. Know that what we do is actually cool. Like, I don't know about other people online, but I really like what I do. I think accounting is awesome. We spend all of our time helping business owners succeed. And I think that's so much fun. So it's those things, and really great women's mentorship programs as well. So that, older, more senior person in our industry really putting up their hand to mentor through someone who's new into the industry as well. And I've been involved in some of that stuff on both ends, and it's been incredible, because there are things there that there are commonalities between women, and sometimes it's just easier to support or to talk to somebody who's going through or has been through something similar to yourself. And I think that can make a huge change, these mentorship programs, into making our industry look more attractive.
How good is that? I'm just looking, sorry, I've been distracted a little bit, making sure I also look at some of the comments that are coming through. So thank you to everyone. I know there's a lot of you online today, and some of the comments that are coming through are awesome. I also want to make sure that if there's comments in there, if there's something you'd like to voice, we are happy for you to unmute your line and ask Beck or ask Brooke questions as well, if there's something there, because there's a lot of comments now. Now I'm trying to work out how I catch up. So it is, if there's anyone that wants to unmute and ask, please do so. I think this is what it's about, that collaborative approach.
Yes, hi. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Camilo. I just moved here to Australia 3 months ago. And, I come from a household where my mom was very successful. She was an accountant for the central bank in Colombia. And, I'm looking to meet, those women that are ready to be leaders in the accounting space. And I am an executive recruiter, so I'm looking to connect any of you ladies with opportunities, as well as fill any voids in your team. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I appreciate this conference.
Beautiful. Thank you, Camilo. Thank you for joining us all the way from LA.
Well, yes. And I just moved to Sydney, actually. So
you're
in downtown.
That's not too bad. Well, welcome to Australia anyway.
Thanks, Paul.
Anyone else who would like to ask a question before I continue to keep going? Sorry, I'm just.
Yeah, I've got one, Paul.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I don't necessarily have a question, but something, just a bit of feedback, something that I've come across, because I interview a lot of accounting, females in accounting practices at the moment via Clarity Street. And one of the resounding themes that I come across and I consistently push them towards is go and read Brene Brown, How to Empower Yourself. Go and read something like that, because one of the things that I find which they really struggle with is how to quantify their value. So when it comes to, we all have our, 6 monthly reviews, 12 monthly reviews, if you have annual reviews, whatever it is, right? So a guy can walk into an annual review and go, all right, I want a pay rise. And they go, all right, why do you want a pay rise? Well, these are the sales. This is the amount of money that I brought in. These are my metrics, basically. This is the value that I have brought to this business. And a woman walks in and basically the boss goes, yeah, all right, sure, no worries. I can understand that. I can see, quite easily, I can see what value you brought to the business, how much money I'm making out of you, all the rest of that kind of stuff. A woman walks into the same meeting and you go, why do you want a pay rise? Well, because I work hard. I stay back late. I'm really good with customers. I get my work done on time. And with respect, that's great, but you're getting paid to do that. What value are you bringing? How do you quantify your value? Women don't get taught that. I don't think women actually get taught to actually quantify their value in a strategic, in a commercial business sense. So that's something else that the industry could really do with learning.
I completely agree with that, Amy. And I read something a little while ago that was sort of similar around how we've ended up with more men in leadership positions, which is for a variety of reasons, but part of it was around women just don't apply. And that's because we sit there and we look at the criteria, and unless we as women, because we probably more tend to be perfectionists and need to know we can do a job, we'll look at these 10 things and be like, yes, I can do that, but I can't do these, so I'm not going to apply even though I think I could do a good job. And no offense to the guys on the call, but a man looks like, I got 2 out of 10. I'll be right. I'll rock up to the interview. They might give it to me. So it's this different attitude. So we don't even put ourselves in that position sometimes to even be considered if we think we might not be able to fulfill all the objectives. And, and that's us as a whole. I know that there are outliers and people in our, there are women out there who'll go do that anyway. But absolutely, there are a lot of us that will not.
And it extends beyond job applications. Like I even look at what we've done at Practice Ignition with the Women in Accounting Awards. Women won't apply. Like they don't often apply for awards. One, because like you said, Amy, they find it hard to quantify or communicate exactly what they do. And two, I don't know, like I put a poll on Twitter a fair while ago about imposter syndrome. And I was like, yeah, this resonates. Like hands up if you feel comfortable, who has dealt with or deals with imposter syndrome. Like I can absolutely attest to a daily basis. I'm dealing with, not good enough, not smart enough. Before I even jumped on this call, I'm like, I'm not qualified to talk on a webinar about women in accounting. Like this is what we deal with every day, but it's just making sure that we're turning up, we're having the conversations, and we're encouraging not only the voices that are, in our communities now, but also the voices that, of the women that don't feel comfortable to step up and have those, to talk about what they do and whatnot. So it's super important.
Can I also just add to that very quickly that that's also an Australian thing on top of not only being a woman, Australians in general, because I'm an American in Australia, and people are like, oh, you're so confident. And I was like, what? Like, I'm shy. Like, this is like low level. So on top of like having that not having value mentality, Australians, y'all have a problem with like also tall poppy syndrome. Like you're constantly putting yourself down as a culture. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Well said.
so
well
true.
said, Mel. Well said. And Amy, absolutely. I agree 150% there. I don't know why we feel, like you said, the 2 out of 10, the male feels like we can just go in there and, oh yeah, we can ace this. It's true. And I think I saw Lynn maybe make a comment just before, and it was about confidence. She used the word confidence there in the comments chat there. And unfortunately, that's what's come out just then, isn't it? It's that next layer of confidence to be able to feel like you can do that. The Americans, I think, Melissa, they're born with it. And like you said, you've probably dumbing yours down and been in Australia, but if you go and live in the US, like I have, you actually know that. It's like, wow, it is a wow moment. But they're the sorts of things, again, that we could probably learn from. Got any more comments on that one? That was fantastic chat. And just looking at, again, some of the comments in there. If you want to, I was going to do a shout out to awards, and I know Ali's online. She's very good at winning awards, isn't she?
But even Ali will tell you that's a journey. Like Ali's been very upfront about the way that she, has gone on the journey with feeling like she can quantify what she does and talk about it and apply. I don't want to steal your thunder, Ali, but that's one of the things I really value about Ali is she's transparent and she's vulnerable. It's not like it happens overnight. It's been a journey.
100%. And if Ali, if you're there and you'd like to comment on that, please do so. Because you're right, that's exactly what we've spoken about. She's opened herself up now, and she said to me the other day, I've now my Facebook page. I want people to know how my life runs, and so she's doing that. And that vulnerable side is so key to that, and that's what she's had to do. I don't know if she's there and she wants to comment on it.
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi, I've actually found it really hard to stay silent, but I wanted to really, I have so many opinions, but I really wanted to hear Beck and Brooke's perspective, and Amy's as well. I couldn't agree more with all of those things, and a little bit of perspective here on confidence. I think when, especially like Beck, I've had my struggles in the accounting industry and moving forward, and those knocks do dent your confidence. So you're not automatically going to go up and put yourself up for roles. And I see that in a lot of situations. It's actually, I think, systemic as a female across society, that we're not given as many opportunities, but we also there's boxes that people expect us to fill. And when we try and move outside of those boxes, we're put back in them pretty quickly. But yeah, look, that awards thing for me has taken time, but it is that confidence builds confidence. But the one thing I think is really important as women in our industry is that we are open, that we are vulnerable, that we do tell our stories, because every single woman I've ever spoken to has a story. And if you want to check out mine, it's on LinkedIn, it's on my personal story, because it's powerful, because you are not alone. And it's really important to lean into other women to get that support, that encouragement, and to build them up, to build up the other women around us and not knock them down. And this is what I'm loving about this. It's opening that conversation. It's building a platform so that we can step up on it. And I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to hear that. I love the fact that you tried to stay quiet.
Respect to the women.
I saw you muting and unmuting. I'm like, just say it, Ali. Come on, you can do it.
And I think that's, again, that's what this is so great about, because you've got the ability to just, again, be so authentic and talk like that. It's live. Yes, it's recorded. There's so many comments coming through, which is, talking about whether it's Amy's comments or Ali's comments, or the way that Beck or Brooke have approached this has been fantastic. So, but it is, I wrote down some key things here, which is about women's mentorship and qualifying value. I suppose if there was two key things that I was going to take away from today, that's it. I know I've written down quite a bit here with my children's texter, mind you, so that gives you a bit of an idea of how things are going in this household. But it is blue, my favorite color. But that's probably the next stage of where this goes to. I think from our point of view, and certainly from my point of view, it's a bit like mental health, how we it's not about just talking about it once and thinking that we've spoken about it. And I think Brooke mentioned it before. It's about how you continually shine a light on this, too many wines, shine a light on it, and making sure that we continually talk about it. And whether it's lobbying with the industry bodies, or how we actually start that conversation. Do I start that conversation with an Andrew Conway and say, hey, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this? Now, we spoke about leadership on the podcast. We spoke about a lot of great things and how he's leading the IPA, but maybe I need to have a conversation with him about this, and let's see how that rolls out. So that could be my challenge. But there we go. What I'm going to do is quickly open up to anybody else, because I know that there's been a few that have made comments, and there's awesome comments in the chat bar. Is there anyone else that would like to unmute? ask a question, make a statement. It's great that we've still got everyone online.
Sorry, it's Sarah. Sorry, Melissa.
I just wanted to get together and have a luncheon, all of us together. We're all drinking and eating together at a table, because that sounds like so much fun.
We could coordinate that between Sydney, Brisbane, Toowoomba, Melbourne. I'm not sure if there's anyone on from Perth. Recently, we've even been getting some people on from Singapore and Hong Kong, which has been pretty exciting to see as well. But hey, as long as there can be the token male, I'm okay with that.
We can do a roadshow, PJ.
Sorry, Sarah, you were going to say?
Oh, it was a bit of a question, really, to everyone. So you've made mention that you've got your 3 kids in the background, and I'm sure there's a lot of us here that can absolutely, go, oh my God, I've been in that situation. However, I'd like to ask anyone here, if this was you and a whole Zoom full of male directors, how comfortable would you feel telling them that your 3 kids could walk in at any time and life's a bit hectic, and just a bit of a throwing it out there to see what other people say?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
I could answer it easily.
I have an answer for that, but I'm actually going to see if anybody else wants to jump in before I shoot my mouth off.
Yeah, see, that's you and me. That's exactly what we would do. But anyone else? Come on.
For me, I think one thing that's come out of COVID is the ability for employers and stuff to see that flexible working arrangements can work, and putting the personality of your home into work can actually be a positive thing. So for me, that has been a big win of slowing down and having to change the way that we do things, to be able to relook at how we work going forward.
Well said, Tanya.
I agree. Hi, Tanya. And Sarah, probably a year ago, I would have said absolutely not. Probably over the last year, I've relaxed a bit, and I think all of our clients and all of our colleagues have also relaxed, and I probably would 100% say exactly the same as Paul. I have no qualms at all about doing that now, because I know I can work just as productively with all of that sort of in the background. And yeah, I think that year, like Tanya said, it has really given us a good opportunity to just change that stigma. Answer would have been very different a year ago.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Melissa, I definitely agree with you. I've had to have a lot of Zoom meetings with very high up executives in big corporate companies, and we've had to negotiate contracts and things like that. And having them in a room in their home, in a spare room with nothing behind them, they're in a hoodie, wearing a hoodie, and you're negotiating, hundreds of thousands of dollars and year-on-year contracts. I think in that space, it just comes down to knowledge. And as long as you're holding your own, and you know what your outcome is, and then they know what that outcome is. And I can agree, 12, 18 months ago, it would not have been me. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I can agree with that. And if they were sitting there in front of me in a suit, I believe it would also be different. But I think today we've been able to see people as real people, and not by their title, and not by the, they have, yes, a very good status job, but we're seeing people, I think women have the ability to see people as humans, and not by their title, because we just have that ability to lift each other up and see people as humans. Whereas when we're dealing with men, we have ability to break down those walls and see them as human, and not see them by their title or who they work for.
Love that, Emma. I think
Thank
that's
you,
so
Emma.
cool. One of the coolest parts for me that's come out of COVID is the humanization of how we work. I've loved seeing cats run across keyboards, children running in from the backgrounds, that meme of that guy that's being interviewed with the kid and the mum comes in, like that's way old, but that's what I love. Like this is real life, and it goes beyond, you know, just a face on a screen, or, you know, a person with a job title. Like we are human beings, and we're coming with all we have to our jobs, bringing our whole selves, and COVID's really shown that, humanized that. If I'm honest with you, Sarah, like I'm not at that level yet. Like I don't have kids myself, but if even from like a mental health perspective, or, you know, all the other things that have come into play in the COVID time, I probably wouldn't say I'm 100% comfortable having those tough conversations, you know, with my managers or directors or CEOs or whatnot. But it's a journey, and I'm okay with learning. And I think at the moment, like being part of these conversations helps me build my confidence. You know, looking at women that have gone before me, and Beck, who can, you know, hold her own in such a real and tangible way, like that's an encouragement to me. So I'm okay with saying that I don't have it all together. But, you know, my confidence increases the more conversations we have like this, and the more that I see other women stepping up and into holding their own.
Well said, Brooke. And I think, look, just on that as well, I'm a little bit older, so you learn lessons along the way. I had a 52nd birthday last week, so I've gone through a lot of heartache, a lot of tough times, and I think that's what you do. So that's what life brings. Life lessons are exactly that. So as long as we're open to learning, those are the great things that we can continue to bring to the forefront and build our confidence. I didn't know if I should tell you guys about my 3 children at the back there right at the start. I thought, I was going to swear then. That's what wine does. I thought, bugger it, I will do it anyway, because I don't know. One of them tippy-toed before to go to the bathroom, and he goes, shh, you did that to me. I've gone, you're telling me, just go. But that's the life we live. And I think the one thing that I've always thought about is if you can be open and honest about things, no one can ever judge you for being open and honest about things. And I think that's the great thing, the great lesson that I've done a lot of different PD work about. And I think that's a great message moving forward. And you're right, we don't know everything. That's the great thing about learning. But as long as we've got the mindset to learn, these are the great platforms where we can share. And you're right, people like Rebecca, or whether it's Amy or Emma or Ali, there's a lot of powerful women here, which I love and I learn from all the time. And I just wanted to share that as well. So thank you for all of you that have shared, been open, and are continuing to be open to your thoughts, opinions. And you know what, to a certain degree, we're all going to get judged. That's just how we are sometimes. You know, I think most cultures, certainly our Australian culture that I know as well, we're soon to get judged. And that's really sometimes why we don't want to say something, because we're going to get judged. So we need to change the way we approach that as well, which is awesome. I've seen some great comments even from Nathan. So Nathan from Panorama, again, well done, mate. Great comments on the chat line there.
I'd love to share a story, if I may.
100%, go for it.
Yeah, so just something that came up this morning, which I'll share with this group of women, is I was talking to my office manager this morning. I said, we should do your review this year. And she said, what? I don't need a review. I said, really? Okay. She said, you know, my review happens in November. And I said, okay, but would it be good the end of the financial year we do a review going forward? It's been like 2 years or so. She's like, no, it's been 3 years. I'm like, okay, yep, excellent. Now, I've worked with this person years before she came to me as well. And I mentioned to her, and I said, well, you need to tell me what you want. Okay. And she said, and she's worth her weight in gold. She does more than her title, and pretty much holds me together and my business together, but is not willing to ask. Okay. And so I said, well, you need to ask. And I said, I'll set the meeting, but you need to figure out what you want and you need to ask. I have it in my mind what I think she's worth. And I know what I believe she's worth, and which is, I believe, is very different to what she thinks she's worth. And but I'm not going to give it, I'm not just going to hand it to her. She has to get that confidence and come forward and ask for it. And I think that's where we need to, you know, push women in our office, that it's not about us just giving it to them. We know their worth and we want them, but we want to give them the power and the confidence to ask as well.
Yeah, excellent. Absolutely excellent. Is there anyone else that would like a bit of a closing comment? Sorry, I know it's gone on to 12:52, so we're a little bit over time. Brooke, Beck, anything you'd like as a parting comment?
I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. I love these conversations. They shouldn't end when the Zoom call ends. So yeah, let's continue the conversation. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and let's just chat. Let's be real and continue the conversation. And all of us, men, women alike, can only benefit from these conversations. So let's continue it. And huge thanks to Paul and our male allies for being a part of this conversation. It's so important for women to be heard, understood, seen and valued. So thank you for being a part of it.
Well said.
I am just really excited with how many people jumped on today, both men and women. It is so great to see you all. I've been scrolling backwards and forwards in between screens trying to see who's on here for the last hour and all the comments. So just thank you for being involved, and don't stop, like Brooke said, and don't be shy to champion other people, and don't be shy to call out shit as well. So whatever it is that's going on, sorry, I know I wasn't supposed to swear. But your kids didn't hear that, did they, Paul?
No, keeping it real. This is all part of it, just keeping it real.
But again, look, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Paul, for pulling this together and for having us involved. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. And look, thank you to all of you. This wouldn't happen without you as the powerful women you are. And I think don't be afraid if you're also sitting back and saying, well, should I reach out to Rebecca? Should I reach out to Brooke? Should I reach out to Ali? The one thing that I've learned is they are the most open people. And I know I can shoot off a text message or a quick message somewhere and always get a response. Yep, would love to be a part of that. Yep, I'd do that. Yep. And I think that's the great thing about reaching out. So again, if you want to reach out and have a chat, I think just like Brooke said, hit her up on Twitter or follow her on LinkedIn and message each other, and let's continue this chat. I agree. It's been awesome. I know I've just got some text messages coming through as well. So, let's continue the chat. So let's do that. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Again, thank everyone for being a part of the promo. Let's continue to do this. On behalf of the professional partners and myself, we'll sign off. Otherwise, we can keep going and keep drinking if you want. I'm in lockdown, but let's sign off. So thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, Paul.
Day, and have a great rest of the week. Everyone that's out of lockdown tomorrow, let's enjoy Friday and the weekend.